Well, hi, everyone, and welcome on into another edition of Navigating Trump 2.0. This is the show that takes a look at everything that happened this week in the nation's capital through the lens of the second Trump administration. And joining me, Dan Andros, the host of the Quick Start podcast here for CBN, and David Brody, CBN News chief political analyst. Boys, the redistricting battle is gripping not only Washington, D.C., but a lot of state capitals around the country, particularly in Texas, in California, and this week in Indiana, where Vice President Vance was on Thursday to meet with Governor Mike Braun about the potential for redistricting there in an attempt to gain, in Indiana, about an extra House seat. But really, the story has been what's happening down in Texas, as Republicans are trying to redraw some congressional districts in an attempt to gain as many as potentially 5 seats in the midterm elections. Democrats have fled the state. Democratic state lawmakers have fled. They are in other blue states, and the governor of Texas has ordered for them to be arrested so they can be brought back to the state capitol, and they would be then forced to vote to have a quorum on whether or not to approve this new redistricting plan for Texas. So, David, Politico reported on Thursday that Trump's team is said to be putting maximum pressure everywhere with regards to redistricting. Basically, they are hoping to get an extra 10 seats in the midterm elections with Indiana, Texas, Ohio, Missouri, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Florida. Mm-hmm. This is the plan. How realistic is it that the GOP can do what they're setting out to do?
Very realistic. Let's just be clear. None of this would be happening if it weren't for President Trump pushing the envelope. It's just that simple. This is his party, and the GOP marches to the beat of Donald J. Trump. And that's the bottom line here, because Texas would not be doing this mid-census, if you will. Now, they pulled this before, about a decade plus ago. But look, overall, this is what Trump really wants. And it can be done. It's not done often. As a matter of fact, it's rarely done, but it is done. Democrats have done this too. What's kind of ironic here is that the Democrat state senators, who are all against gerrymandering, if you will, have gone to one of the states they've gone to is, wait for it, Illinois, which is one of the top gerrymandering states in the United States. So, cry me a river to a degree with some of the hypocrisy there. So where does this all end up? Look, ultimately, this is going to happen in Texas. And what do I mean by this is going to happen? It means they're going to get their 5 seats. And why? Because eventually the governor there, Greg Abbott's going to call another special session and another special session and another special session. So Democrats are going to be forced at some point to give in. I mean, it's just going to happen at some point. They're not going to be able to stay out for too long. And if they do, most likely they all will be gone, though that'll take a while to go through the courts. So we haven't even talked about Gavin Newsom in California and all that type of stuff. But bottom line is, this is I think it's important to understand this is a national battle. This is about the midterm elections. A lot of people hear redistricting in Texas and they go, womp, womp, what's for dinner? I have no desire to listen about redistricting because that sounds a little bit too complicated and it's in the weeds and I don't care. No, let me take it out of the weeds and just say this is for control of the midterm elections. That's what this comes down to, John.
And Dan, clearly the Democrats feel the same way. They are looking at this as the Republicans trying to jerry-rig the midterm elections, claiming that they're fearful that if they leave these districts the way they are, that they'll lose control of the House. And they're also making the argument that this is very much done out of order. You only do this kind of redistricting every 10 years after the census is taken, and you see where the population in these different states lie. And so they're looking at it as a manipulation of the system, and that's why they're protesting. That's why they are leaving. What do you make of that argument?
I mean, when I hear Democrats right now talking about, the talking points must be out because, I was monitoring mainstream media outlets today, MSNBC, CNN, Fox, everywhere else. And a lot of the anchors on there were using the term, Trump is trying to rig the system. And I don't know, I'm old enough to remember when saying that an election system was rigged would get you banned on social media. So it's interesting to me that now they're suddenly feeling comfortable using that. But I think I would just double down on the argument with what David said. I mean, Democrats have done this. They cannot act shocked and appalled. If you don't like the practice of gerrymandering, then you're going to have to do something about gerrymandering itself and getting it banned. and making it outlawed or whatever the case might be. Because like David said, it's happened in Illinois in 2011, in Maryland, in Massachusetts, in California. They've done it in these places. And I think even Stephen Colbert called out a Democratic politician on his show about Illinois and saying, well, look, this looks awfully interesting. What is this? And so it's very difficult to take the grandstanding that's happening right now with them fleeing the state, given the fact that both sides have used this.
And John, to be clear, North Carolina did this in 2016. That was mid-census. And there's other states as well. So this idea that, Trump and Republicans are the one pushing the envelope here, as Dan said, is, as my dad would like to say, from 1952, hogwash. I don't think that there's any question about that. What's interesting today, here we're taping on Thursday, with some of the news coming out this morning, with President Trump saying that he's directing the Commerce Department to begin, in essence, a new census, the way they do the census, and that would exclude illegal immigrants, because right now, if you're an illegal immigrant in America, you are counted in the census. He says no, absolutely not. So that is going to be obviously controversial, but also something worth talking about. And I don't know if we're going to get to it, but should I just say it now, which is about Gavin Newsom in California?
Yeah.
I guess we can talk about that a little bit. But just so everybody's clear, I say not everybody, I don't mean here, but just like out in like YouTube land, if you will. Gavin Newsom's going to try to pull the same thing now in California, trying to get 6 new seats for the Democrats. The part of the problem for Gavin Newsom is he's got to run it through, wait for it, the people of California, because they already have something in place in California called an independent redistricting commission. So the only way to get rid of the independent redistricting commission, try to say that 5 times fast, is to have a special election and literally have the people get rid of it themselves. So that's the plan. I mean, Newsom's planning to do this. It'd probably be held in November, obviously a special election. And if they get rid of that, say it all together, the independent redistricting commission, if they do, well, then at that point, it'll be up to the legislature, the liberal Democrat legislature in California, to redraw the maps there. And that's where the 6 seats come in. So look, this is going to be tit for tat. I don't think there's any question about it. And that's why, getting back to your original question, John, why they're going to Indiana and some of these other places, because they want to ultimately outdo the Democrats, because they know the tit for tat's coming. So they don't want to be down 6-5 in the bottom of the 9th, if you will, to use a baseball analogy, California up 6-5. They want to win 10-6, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I guess my question, because the Democrats are obviously going to answer what the Republicans are doing here, how much of this ends up being a wash at the end of the day, or how much do the Republicans could they end up on the short end of the stick with regard to this redistricting tete-a-tete that we're seeing here? If these blue states are going to be doing some of the same thing that the red states are trying to do, that Trump wants them to do, could this end up backfiring on Republicans? And will Americans who aren't really paying all that close attention to this, would they perceive this as being something where, like, what's going on here? We're trying to manipulate districts in order to make them less purple and more strictly red or more strictly blue. Like, is this, gerrymandering? I mean, I've seen some maps in years past where the way they draw up the district lines and carve out little sections, it's not like, nice even squares where, you've got people, like, some of the way they draw up these lines, you can see someone's like going through like street by street to try and figure out, which is the red street
test.
Yeah, it really is. So I think that's where a lot of the discomfort for some people come from. Discomfort from me on both sides when it comes to gerrymandering, because it does kind of feel like you're kind of setting the board up in a way that's going to benefit you. And both sides do it, and that's 100% true. Doesn't make it right.
I don't think it's going to have any political impact, for sure. I'll just say this, that you got to look at that Illinois 4th district, what they've done there. Oh my gosh, talk about carving out certain things. The district is just not one block. It's like and then over there. That's a lot of sound effects to say that a 3-year-old, my 3-year-old granddaughter on an Etch-a-Sketch, that's what it looks like, literally. I mean, it's wild stuff. So I don't think it's going to be an issue politically. And I think Republicans are gonna have a majority of redistricting type seats at the end of the day.
Dan, any thoughts on gerrymandering? Should it be legal? Like, should we have something in place where it's not allowed in between censuses to redistrict?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the ultimate solution is, but I would say whatever we can do to make this not a thing would probably be good, because it is ridiculous. I mean, it is ridiculous to have your district shaped like, like a set of Rorschach tests. It just shouldn't happen. But I mean, as long as they're allowed to do it, it's just going to happen.
Yeah. And while we're at it, who's Jerry?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Why is he mandering?
And
why
it's Jerry
is he
with a G too, which is odd. I
mean, it should be George Mandering, but whatever. I don't know. All right. Anyhow, sorry, please. I digress.
Well, let's get into Tariff Day here on Thursday. Thursday was the day that the Trump administration's freeze on reciprocal tariffs ended, meaning a number of countries will be facing much steeper tariffs on goods sent to the United States. That includes tariffs on Canada, a 35% tariff on Canada, 30% on EU countries and Mexico, 25% for Japan and South Korea. Although deals with the EU, Korea, and Japan were announced last month, he also announced a 50% tariff Trump did on copper imports. David, is Trump winning the tariff battle here? I mean, he's announced deals and he's moving forward with tariffs on some of these other nations. Some countries have come to the table to negotiate at least a framework for a trade deal. As we've talked about in previous episodes, it takes a long time for trade deals to be finalized. But are the tariffs working and the threats of tariffs working for President Trump?
Well, I can only go by the statistics as it relates to financially of how much money's come in over the first, 3 months of the tariffs, basically all the deals that he's changed. And it's $150 billion or so, which is wild. I mean, if you think about it. So, I mean, from a financial standpoint, the United States is doing a whole lot better with $150 billion in the coffers in 3 months. Now, having said that, there's going to be tumult. It's just part of the deal, right? And we're seeing that today in some of the markets around the world. Some a little bit with the stock market here. But this reminds me of what happened the first time this went down. The sky is falling, and of course the stock market took a turn for the worse, and then boom, it rebounded and did better than it did or it had done in a long time. So I kind of think this is the same situation. We'll see. But this is the ultimate Rubik's Cube. I mean, this is the tariff Rubik's Cube. And it's Trump, some would say as a child, if you're a liberal, and it's Trump with the Rubik's Cube going like, ching, 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 Brazil, ching, China, ching, oh, look, boom, there, done, back to you. I think we're in the middle of whether or not this Rubik's Cube can be solved, and we're not going to know for some time.
As someone who's never solved a Rubik's Cube or even come close, that scares me, David. No, but I think, Dan, part of this, and I think wrapped up into all of this is the president's decision to fire the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics last week after revisions showed a dramatic change from 2 months previous, a dramatic downshift in the number of jobs created, a much bleaker jobs economy out there right now over the last couple of months. And obviously the White House today in an Oval Office news conference, the president brought out an economist showing how some of the numbers didn't make sense according to the Trump administration. And I think to me, this is kind of tied into Trump's overall focus on tariffs and what effect it could have on the economy, because clearly one of the worries is that tariffs on goods, it'll cost Americans more. It could affect the job market negatively. And I think all these things are kind of tied together. Do you think that's what is going on with the White House right now, that there are concerns about the economics of the tariffs, or are the two completely related? Not related.
As far as that firing, I mean, I think the timing of that wasn't good, for the chief there that got fired, because it looked, Trump claimed that she was overinflating to make it look bad, like that it was going to miss the mark, and that it wasn't. It was a false sort of mark they were setting. But on the tariff front, I do think it's an issue, John, because not everyone is in lockstep on the Republican side of things, particularly financial conservatives who view tariffs as taxes. Because as David mentioned, that $150 billion, Trump touted that number. But what is that number? That number, who paid it? American taxpayers, because what happens is these imports are the companies importing them here in America pay that they pay that tax, and so they have to pass that cost on to consumers because the products coming in cost 30% more or 10% more or 15% more, and that gets passed on to the consumers. So I think you're seeing a lot of rhetoric that would have sounded appalling to Republicans. I remember Joe the plumber calling out Barack Obama for saying, hey, let's just spread the wealth around. I think it's great. And here's Republicans now, a lot of them in the MAGA movement saying, hey, great, we got this $150 billion in taxes. How should we spend it? It's like, wait a minute, that sounds an awful lot like redistributing the wealth. And so I don't know that people are going to be huge fans of that on the conservative side of things, especially if it really continues. I've seen a few posts now of one guy who was like very pro and initially, small business guy, and then he showed like the side by side of just in a couple months what the same exact stuff he was importing cost, and it was going dramatically up. If that continues to happen, remember we said the tariffs was a long-term play by Trump to try to bring manufacturing back here to America, because you're not going to be paying these tariffs, he says, if you manufacture here in America. But I think in the short term, it's very difficult to source every single thing in manufacturing from America. The guy that I was talking about that showed the side-by-side, he thought all the things that he was making was made in America, but it turns out he imported different parts and things that he didn't quite factor in. And so the prices skyrocketed on those things. So it's going to be very interesting, because if these day-to-day costs dramatically spike or even just increase and we don't see an ease in it, it's going to be a problem in the short term.
Hey, guys, if you don't mind, and if I can let the cat out of the bag, or I shouldn't say the cat out of the bag, but maybe I can reveal some of our secrets, if you will. We're recording this. I hope this is all right to say, but we're recording this around 4:15 Eastern on Thursday. It's now literally in real time as I'm looking at 4:30. And you, John, had gotten something from Kelly Wright, our White House correspondent, right before we went on, saying the president had just called reporters into the Oval Office. Well, we're talking about the economy, and I can report now, as I'm seeing this now come in, seeing the video and everything, President Trump has brought economist Stephen Moore into the Oval Office, and they've got charts. This is why he brought reporters in. They've got charts with data showing that the Bureau of Labor Statistics over the last 2 years of the Biden administration, quote, overestimated job creation by 1.5 million jobs. So they're bringing the receipts. He's got Steve Moore in the Oval Office, someone who has been on CBN quite often. We know Steve, reputable, and has got a lot of integrity. And by the way, I should point out with Steve Moore, totally disagrees with Trump on tariffs, by the way. He's a free market guy. So, I mean, he's got some credibility in that sense, too, in the sense that he's challenged Trump on this. But he's there in the Oval Office. So I just wanted to at least add some flavor into our conversation. Once again, breaking news at this hour. We'll get more details, but that's basically what's going on there.
Some important context there. I did want to ask one other thing about the tariffs, David, and kind of zeroing in on one of the areas that people are concerned could really increase in value, and that's technology. That's electronics. The president said on Wednesday that he will impose a 100% tariff on computer chips that come from outside the United States in an effort to get more of these things, all of these computer chips, things that we use for computers, our phones, tablets, everything else, to be made in America. Trump said companies that make chips in the U.S. would be spared the import tax. We all love our phones. We are broadcasting right now on computers and cameras and microphones and everything else. We are a tech heavy country here in the United States. We love to buy our gadgets. If prices on phones, on computers, and everything else go up, what effect will that have on the American consumer and the American voter as a result?
Well, obviously, it'll be a catastrophe. The question then becomes, is it going to happen or not? And I'll be honest with you, John, it's above my pay grade. I mean, when it comes to the economy, I'm not an expert. Now, if you want to check out with me on Broadway show trivia, I'm more than happy to oblige.
You got me there.
No, I can go down and sing Hamilton for you if you'd like. We'd be here for about 3 hours. So I don't know, but I will say this, that it goes to what he's always talked about, right? Make America great again. He brought Tim Cook from Apple into the Oval Office, right? 100 billion, was it billion, trillion, million? No, it's billion, I think, $100 billion. that Apple's going to invest. Oh, wait for it. Where they're going to make their stuff in the $100 billion they're going to invest. Wait for it, in Kentucky, which is kind of interesting because Rand Paul and Tom Massey, two, one senator, one congressman who have been very much against Trump,
because are going to get taxes, David.
Yeah, that's right.
It's cheaper to do it there. This is the thing that nobody wants to talk about on the left side of the aisle. There's a reason why everyone shows up in Delaware and Texas and Kentucky. Anyway, sorry,
no,
I digress.
Please. I'm sorry. Who's this on the podcast? Just kidding. We've been infiltrated.
I know.
It's James Comey on the podcast. So no, I mean, really, I'm out of things to say. I'm just babbling at this point. But yes, bottom line is, this could go south. It's a gamble, but I don't know. With Trump, it's always not just the art of the deal, but when it comes to business stuff, he's been pretty darn good in his career. So I think he gets the benefit of the doubt here. We'll see.
Yeah, John, I just want to reiterate, because it's really interesting to me the way Trump looks at tariffs when he says we've been getting a raw deal, because a tariff is a tax on the import. So when we're taxing China, when we're taxing Canada, it's on the import. So that means an American company is buying something from there, and that costs, 10, 20, 30% more to buy it. They pass that on to consumers. So in my view, a tariff actually only hurts mainly American consumers because we're going to pay more for that. So them having a higher tariff on something, yes, maybe that would dissuade us from possibly exporting some things over there, but that just punishes the people in that country. They're A, not going to get as much stuff from there. B, they're going to be paying more for things. So I've never understood that argument about how it's such an unfair deal. I do understand more the argument of, I want to bring manufacturing back to America. That makes more sense to me in the long run as an argument than the other one does, because the American taxpayer are the ones paying all of these, where it's the $150 billion. So I don't get why that part of it's being touted. I get the American manufacturing thing, and that is a big gambit because, like I said, it's going to take a long time, and you have to deal with unions and everything else for that to happen. So the other argument, though, doesn't make sense to me.
Well, let me just follow up real quick, guys, on that. That makes sense on paper, right? That's been the argument on paper. But I don't know. I mean, what have we seen in practice so far? I mean, this happened, in April? So May, June, July. It's been almost going on 4 months now. Have we seen a major increase passed along to the consumer at this point? I mean, my reporting and my research at least suggests that we haven't seen that yet. And many of those manufacturers are saying we're gonna eat some of that cost right now. I don't know why. Once again, now I'm way outside my hemisphere, but are we doing stories about how prices are out of control?
They're not going down. I mean, they're certainly not going down.
But I thought they were going to go up. Right? Didn't we say in April, oh my gosh, it's all going to be passed on to the consumer? Okay, well, it's been 4 months. It's been 4 months. So what's going on? Why are we not seeing?
But because he delayed a lot of those tariffs. So he kept delaying them. So, while there have been some, I mean, the big, huge, punitive, like a 10% tariff is, to the individual person on something is, that's the tax going up 10%, on something that's $100, you're paying a little bit more, right? Like, so you maybe aren't going to notice it so much, but from an economic scale, like where it really hurts is the small business, even the large business that's importing lots of things. So that little increase obviously adds up to a huge number when you're talking, millions and millions of products.
Right. And the Liberation Day tariffs that he promised with that, we all remember the big chart that had all the countries and all the percentages. Right. He obviously a couple weeks or a week later, because of what was going on in the bond market, downshifted away from that. And now we're kind of looking at it more from an individual's country standpoint. And he's, redone some of the deals, or at least redone some of the frameworks of deals. And I don't think we're not thinking about it the same way we did on Liberation Day. That plan seems to have been kind of tossed over the side of the boat at this point, which may be for the benefit of the economy, and maybe he was listening to folks who were really worried and nervous about what it could mean. But I think there's a lot of what businesses are concerned about is uncertainty. They just want to know, I think, as much as anything else, what is the tariff going to be? And is this a number that I can depend on for the long term? Because then now I can make my plans. I can say, okay, now I'm going to charge this. Now I'm going to be responsible for this, and they can go forward without a lot of the uncertainty that businesses were facing, not really knowing whether or not a tariff is going to be coming in from Saudi Arabia, or there's going to be one for China. What's the number going to be?
Yeah, good point. I hear you.
Well, let's leave it there for this week, guys. Two big stories this week.
Just kidding.
We do what? You got something else?
I've got nothing else. Like I said, I can talk dear Evan Hansen if you want, or other board wishes. No, I've got nothing else.
Well, one of the things
playing around with you.
I want to hear the singing. I mean,
yeah, well, I would like to hear a few bars hummed.
Well, let me just say that's called YouTube After Hours. You will not be seeing that today.
Need a premium subscription for that one, I think, is probably how that's
100%.
going to work.
I'm going to make some money off of that.
That's right. All right, David Brody, Dan Andros, we will leave it there for this week. Thank you again, everybody, for watching Navigating Trump 2.0.
Thanks, guys.